Mommy issues and daddy issues, as people call them, are much deeper than many people may think. They are not just simple aspects. As far as my own language functions, it's what I call structural designs. A structural design is something way more complex than just a behavior or, a phase of one's life. A behavior is a set of patterns that you choose and, well, you rehearse them until they become something that you are well used to. A behavior is something that you can still change, you can agree to change it, or, well, you can keep doing it and it becomes your new normal, and you might even think that that is how you function. That is why I always remind people, ask yourself the question, who were you before everyone started telling you who you are? And, well, what you should be like, and how to behave, and how to be, and all sorts of these belief systems. If we are to look a bit at how things go, technically almost everyone in the world suffers from mommy or daddy issues. Now, these are some advanced aspects. They are much deeper than many people may want to believe. And, well, you see, this sick society lives in such a way that not only does it teach us, ever since we are young, that everything about us is wrong, bad, and, well, everything bad about it. But at the same time, if something is wrong about you, it's really bad. Like, it's not just that, something technically would be bad about you. It's just that it's way worse than that, and people have been guilt tripping themselves and shaming themselves and feeling all these dense emotions because this is the only environment where a sick society can proliferate in. Yes? So the point about this is these are structural designs. These are something way more advanced. Now, what would that imply? See, you can compare this, for example, with karmic structure. Now, karma is basically what I prefer defining it, not sure if it is the best one though, but it is an imprint that is left behind after each and every action that you perform. Not only your actions, like your conscious or unconscious actions, but everything that, for example, your body does. Everything is recorded in a certain, let's say, pocket dimension of your physical body. And you can also find them in the Akashic system of the cosmos if you are, well, mad enough to try to seek things like that. The point is, every action, every breath, every drinking of water, everything that one performs, consciously and unconsciously, as well as your body does, everything leaves a certain imprint. Yes? And people who have performed, for example, hypnosis, you can lead a person into a certain trance during hypnosis, and you can have them replicate perfectly a certain quote they said at a certain moment in their life, or something that they heard in a language that they never knew. You can have someone listen to a quote in a language that they don't know. If you ask them what they heard, they may not be able to reproduce, but their subconscious mind remembers it, and it will not ever forget it. Yes? This karmic structure, much of it, will be deleted, well, a few seconds before someone departs. Yes? Usually it happens, and some people who become conscious of that usually observe that before the moment of their, final breath, whether through an accident or, when it comes to their normal death, well, they will see like a movie of their lifetime. Yes, it's, well, the real you, the soul, whatever way you want to call it, burning through much or as much as possible of the karmic structure you have accumulated. Now let's get back to structural designs. Now, this idea of mommy and daddy issues, these are something that you inherit. Let's not forget, when you are born, you are not simply born just like that. Yes, sure, we all know the biological aspect of two cells becoming one and so on and so forth. But that is not just it. That is only the lower level, that of the physical. At a beyond level, at multiple layers of this cosmos, you also come in this current life that you have with a certain karmic baggage, which is basically a set of remembrances of your past experiences. Let's call them past lives. Some people, when they are born, they also become aware that they have certain fears, for example, or certain passions, tendencies, let's call them, and they've never experienced those before. Yes, suddenly they become aware of something. Those are somewhat, more or less, I repeat, more or less, not always, nudges of such karmic presences. Yes, the only thing you will take with you beyond your death, beyond the grave, yes, is just this karmic structure. Based on this karmic structure, the real you, aka the viewer, or the magical eye, as it is portrayed in occultism, aka the all-seeing eye that you see, for example, in the Illuminati emblem. Yes, that eye is the representative of the real you. Yes, in Masonry, that eye that you see in there, in the Masonic lodges, symbols and that, represents the real you, ultimate power, that of living outside of concepts, attachments, and all sorts of things like that. Yes, it's the real viewer, outside of all psychological, emotional, mental, attachments and, all sorts of constructs like that. Yes, so the point is very simple. These issues, people have necessities, yes? You are born in this world with your own karmic baggage, but you are born out of a mother and a father. Their DNA is not just every little bit of data about this physical body. This physical body is chosen by that soul, well, whatever way you want to call it, the real you, the seeker, based on their karmic structure. And that body is searched unconsciously. Yes, before you even get born, it is searched unconsciously. Yes, everybody will seek a certain environment based on, well, certain premises that it knows. We don't have to bother ourselves with that because, well, consciousness is way wider and broader than we can consciously think of. Yes, we can only fathom a tiny little bit of it. But beyond a certain level, it is beyond what we may call logical. Yes, because to the majority of people, unfortunately, logics is the edge of existence. If you pull them out of logics, well, unfortunately, they will simply prefer to shun those things away because they're not be comfortable. Yes, a lot of people, especially through schooling systems and such, are taught to live life only by the consensus of logics. Now, logics can be, they are obviously of multiple layers, yes, but the regular, what I call the mundane logics, well, they are the most comfortable to people, but there is a big flaw on them, yes. The flaw that I have observed with logics is that logics are highly psychological related, yes. And what I call psychological is a blend of mental and emotional, yes, in this case. So mental is nothing else but data that you acquire in your brain. Well, they're not stored in the brain or in the neurons, they're stored on a certain layer of your physical body, but, well, simply put, they are simply data. And, well, this data doesn't necessarily need to have any foundation. And, well, the mind will definitely fight for everything that you support. That is a big danger, yes? Now, when it comes to the emotional side, well, the emotional side can make people delusional in a way because you can be told something that has no link, no tangency with reality. And, well, outside of you knowing that, you will simply embrace it and even end up fighting for. Yes? That's how you get so many people identifying as whatever they wish, for example, or people who, for example, are fully convinced that the earth may be flat, and then you have people who are fully convinced that the earth is round. Yes? We don't necessarily know ourselves the truth. Yes? We haven't gone out there in space to see the actual truth, but in the end, whichever of those options would be true, well, the funny thing is it won't make us necessarily wiser. Yes, it's not going to cure our hunger or our problems or our mommy and daddy issues, so to speak. So these issues belong also to your parents as well. Because when you embody, yes, that physical body that was created also bears within it the karmic structure not only of your parents, but the karmic baggage of their ancestors as well, several generations before. So not only do you have your own karmic structure, but you have also the your ancestors, yes? While you are in this physical body, you have certain ancestors, yes? So during this life, those ancestors will indirectly influence you. Maybe you have not met them in real life. Maybe you don't know who they are, what they look like, but definitely you have features of them. You have their blood flowing through you. You have features about their face, certain vulnerabilities or strengths that have become structural identities of this physical body. Some people end up being a drunkard because one random ancestor or several were simply like that. Some people may have only a tendency. Some people may have a tendency to run away from fights. Some people have a tendency to be highly aggressive. All of these behavioral patterns may have, usually have, a big influence on people at a subconscious level. But given the fact that we mostly live our lives unconsciously, all these ancestral karmic structures will try to slither within our lives. The moment one becomes more conscious and they take responsibility for their acts and become mindful and heartful of their existence, then these things will slither back, not into inexistence. They will still be there, but at least through conscious action, one decides whether they want to be a slave of those karmic structures or not. See, in this world, in this cosmos, nature gives us a body for free. And when the contract with this physical body ends, or aka the person departs, well, the physical body is returned back to nature. In the end, kind of no interest is taken. You get a physical body, you do whatever with it, it grows, you experience life, you do whatever you want with it, and then sooner or later it becomes incompatible with life, so the real you will simply leave away. Yes? So, in such situations, one has to understand you are going to be influenced by those mommy slash daddy issues because you are born in a life in a certain period of time. Yes? And previous generations most likely haven't had it better than us. Obviously, I'm not saying that these times are, far better. Yes, but each and every generation has to be traumatized by the sick society because that is how they are kept humble. That is how they are kept meek. That is how they are kept complacent. Yes, because the sick society's greatest fear is that of the masses realizing that they don't need the so-called society because society is the totality of the people representing it, not just a little cult or whatever groups that rule the masses. Yes? So the point about this is I have not met people without at least traces of these so-called issues. Abandonment usually hits very hard. Judgment. A lot of people tell me about the fear of judgment. See, I listen to that and I usually tell them, some people don't feel ready for that, so I don't, but with the majority of people, I prefer reminding them one thing. There is no such thing as a fear of judgment. The fear, the exact fear, is the fear of misjudgment. Because everything that you do, subconsciously you repeat in your mind as a confirmation. Yes? When you label someone in a certain way, you also repeat that into your mind. And you know that people will act the same as well. So you preferably want to be judged, but not misjudged, because that is the big problem in this world. It's not that people judge. Judgment is good. Yes? It shows that that brain is somewhat functional, even if some people kind of misjudge all the time, but still they have somewhat of a functional brain. Well, it's questionable in some cases, but well, the point is suddenly, well, some people decide to simply judge. They don't care what they judge. The first idea that crosses their mind, probably it isn't even theirs, because there are beings that you can definitely call mental parasites. I used to think about those for a long time, especially in the 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, when I was writing about mind viruses, things that I was intuitively feeling about and writing about. Just many, like 10, 15 years later, to bump into a book called The Meme or The Mind Virus, which was exactly the same thing that I was thinking about without having read anything about. But the book came more like as a confirmation, and it's not the only moment that I got confirmations about. I've had confirmations about a lot of things that I used to intuitively feel when I was young. Now, when it comes back to these mommy and daddy issues, these are things that not only have they affected you, they have affected your ancestors. When you have downloaded their karmic structures within, they are simply away from this world. Yes? Because the DNA is said to carry with it the baggage of the last 7 generations. I assure you that at a subtler level, up to 12 generations there are in there. And all their frustrations, misaccomplishments, fears, happiness, talents, all sorts of things like this, everything actually about them, at a certain level of intensity, it is still there in your DNA. They are actively existing there. And sooner or later, they will have a certain influence. Whether you have tendencies towards something, you have a certain burst of emotions or things like that. A lot of people also, throughout their lives, also cure some of those things when they accidentally or consciously release some of those pent-up frustrations. This may go through multiple cycles, and spirituality can hasten that result. This release from such karmic structures does not entirely remove those cycles. It simply makes them longer. A longer cycle is always good because it takes way longer for it to repeat. Yes? Now, all these people had their own insecurities, their own problems, anger issues, and all sorts of that. Now, the bigger problem is something like this. When people feel bad about their body, when people feel bad about things, all of those frustrations are stored within the physical body. Yes? Women usually store a lot of their insecurities, for example, in their own body, just like everyone else. The problem is, for example, hatred, anger, and the such also influence your blood, and in the case of women, also it influences the quality of their milk. If women are resentful, hateful, they hate certain parts of their bodies and the such, they create a karmic structure that, well, stores that information. When the child is born, well, let's not forget that while in the mother's womb, the baby actually is also fed that information from their mother. Yes? When the child is breastfed by their mother and their mother is hateful, resentful, and the such, the child picks that up. Yes? And also, the quality of the milk can become poisonous if the woman is spiteful, yes, during milking her child. Let's not forget that in older times, when people, thousands of years ago, when people were conscious, more aware of such things, they would try to make the woman feel very good in her own skin so that their child has much greater chances of not going through such traumatic experiences. So many children inherit their mother's insecurities, anger issues, and the such ever since they are young, and they also keep going through that while they are being breastfed. Yes? And that poisonous milk might have certain influences on certain parts of their body. While they may not be conscious of such situations, well, their physical body remembers. Because while you're talking about objects and energy, you see, only superficial people talk about those. Only superficial people talk about energy. You have to understand, energy is not just energy, it is information. Yes? And that information is the most important part because what influence it has on you. Yes? It's not because it is energy. Yes, everything is energy, correct. But the information within that energy, yes, that is the most important part. Because from a spiritual standpoint, or from a subtle standpoint, an occult perspective, for example, an occult means, for example, you can influence a certain body with a certain kind of energy. Yes, you can make an apple way more vibrant. And if someone eats a regular apple, well, they won't feel much. If they eat the infused apple, they will feel something completely different. And that will have a certain influence on your body. The same thing can be done with poisons. You can poison a certain object with a certain kind of energy. And if someone touches it, well, you're going to get that energy into your body. But the information is what will hurt you. Yes, this is how occult gifts happen. Yes, some randomer comes along the road, they smile to you and they give you a certain object. Well, you call it a cursed object. Well, a cursed object is nothing else than an object infused with an information that is not meant to do too much good, or, well, obviously it is meant to do harm to whoever gets in touch with it. And that object can be infused in a certain stable way where touching it does not download the information on the first individual and then it becomes more subtle and it dissipates quick. No, if done correctly, such objects can remain imbued with such information for even thousands of years. So, to move on, one has to comprehend that these issues are simply belonging to others as well. Now, you will also have a certain tendency towards these because you already have them in your system. And when you experience these for the first time, well, you have your own necessities not met, your own frustrations as well, but also your ancestors' ones add up, which makes it that each and every new generation will find it harder, usually, to transcend these problems, these necessities. That is why a sick society will always choose to traumatize each and every generation at least once with a very big traumatic event. Yes, that reinforces those insecurities, those feelings of helplessness. Yes, while society also presents itself as the possible savior so that people remain complacent and embrace the saving done by others, not choosing therefore to save themselves. Hopefully this video raised a bit of awareness. You are appreciated. Take care, enjoy life, and this being said, Ferenc Board signing out.